Jaya Radha Madhava. A little lower. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Jasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Chamunti Ravanatari. Chamunti Ravanatari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Jasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamunati Ravanatari. Jamunati Ravanatari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Boom! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Boom! Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Bo Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Bo, Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribhajikacharya Siddha Shisham and His Divine Grace Abide Children Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Guru Vaishnavrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Goho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navadip Dham Ki. Jagannath-puri Dham Ki. Jamuna Maya Ki. Ganga Maya Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Samveda Bhakti Vinda Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Siddhara Giridhari Ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki. Gopremanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Krishna Swadamo Bhagate Dhammaganadi Bisaha Kalaunda Sadashamesha Parono Konadodata Narayana Namaskritchanam Shaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. The Bhagavatam has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. The person who lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali should get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of God in Narayan, the Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So by my calculation, Canto 7, Chapter 2, Text 40. And quoting Yamaraj, Hiranyakasipu is pacifying his relatives. Pati chutam tishtati dishta rakshitam grihe stitam tad vihatam vinashati jivati ananto api tad ikshito vane grihe bhugupto sya hato na jivati patichutam tishta dishtarakshitam grihe stitam tad viyatam vinashyati jivanti annato pitadikshito vane grihe bigupto syahato na jivati patichutam tishtati dishtarakshitam grihe stitam tad vihitam vinashyati jivati ananto pitadikshito vane grihe bigupto syahato na jivati patichutam tishtati dishtarakshitam grihe stitam tad vihatam vinashyati jivati anato pitadikshito vane grihe bigupto syahato na jivati patichutam tishtati dishtarakshitam grihe stitam tad vihitam vinashyati jivatyananto pitadikshito grihe bigupto syahato jivati Yakshitam grihe stitam tad vihatam vinashyati jivatyananto pitadikshito vane griho bigupto syahato jivati patichutam tishtati dishtarakshitam grihe stitam tad vihatam vinashyati jivatyananto pitadikshito vane grihe bigupto syahato. Mataji, you want it? Oh, well, that would make it difficult, wouldn't it? Pati, on the public road. Chutam, some possession dropped. Tishtati, it remains. Dishtarakshitam, protected by destiny. Grihe, at home. Stitam, although situated. Tat vihatam, struck by the will of the Supreme. Vinashyati, it is lost. Jivati, remains alive. Anatta api, although without a protector. Tadikshita, being protected by the Lord. Vane, in the forest. Grihe, at home. Abhigupta, well hidden and protected. Asya, of this one. Hata, struck. Na, not. Jivati, lives. Translation. Sometimes one loses his money on a public street where everyone can see it, and yet his money is protected by destiny and not seen by others. Thus, the man who had lost it gets it back. On the other hand, if the Lord does not give protection, even money maintained very securely at home is lost. If the Supreme Lord gives one protection, even though one has no protector and is in the jungle, one remains alive. Whereas a person well protected at home by relatives and others sometimes dies, no one being able to protect him. Also, you say, sometimes one loses his money. on a public road where everyone can see it. And yet his money is protected by destiny and not seen by others. Thus the man who lost it gets it back. On the other hand, if the Lord does not give protection, even money maintained very securely at home is lost. If the Supreme Lord gives one protection, even though one has no protector, and is in the jungle, one remains alive. Whereas a person well protected at home by relatives and others sometimes dies, no one being able to protect him. Purport. These are examples of the supremacy of the Lord. Our plans to protect or annihilate do not act, but whatever he thinks of doing actually happens. Prabhupada said, I have my plan, you have your plan, Krishna has his plan. These examples given in this regard are practical. Everyone has had some practical experience, and there are also many other clear examples. For instance, Prahlad Maharaj said that a child is certainly dependent on his father and mother, but in spite of their presence, the child is harassed in many ways. Sometimes, in spite of a supply of good medicine and an experienced physician, a patient does not survive. Therefore, since everything is dependent on the free will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, our only duty is to surrender unto him and seek his protection. I think this is quite an appropriate verse for the month of Damodar. I'll get there. I just wanted to set the premise. We'll get there. Om Ganat Randasya Gyana Ganasalakaya Jakshushamadan Gena Tasmani Shigurave Namaha. And help me end on time, or a little early, because I want to talk a little bit about Radhakund and Raghunath Das Goswami. So I had personal experience of this. As a householder, I would take my kids on a summer vacation. We would go somewhere. I highly recommend it as a householder. Take a family vacation. It gets you through a lot of difficult times. You're living with somebody and the kids and the wife for a whole year, you know, and then things can get a little tense and you get a little cabin fever sometimes, you know. And you have a little vacation, you get a little break, you're out of your normal thing, everybody's kind of having fun. It really does grease the wheels for a happy household life. I strongly recommend it, said the renowned sannyasi. So we went to the New York Ratha Yatra, myself and my kids, and from there we went down to Washington, D.C. I showed them D.C. We showed them went to the top of the Empire State Building. I met, well, I don't want to get too far off track, but I'll say it because I started, Vipramukhya. Remember Vipramukhya, sannyasi? And he had this kid with him, 2 kids. And the parents had just moved into the temple. The kids were wild, driving everybody nuts. I'm sure they were going nuts. They weren't used to being devotees, you know. So they decided to get through the summer. Each senior devotee had 1 day to take them with them, just to get them out of the house. And it was, okay, it was his day. So I went with my kids. We went to the top of the Empire State Building. You know, it's kids. It's innocent, you know. So we went to that. And I met Vipramukhya Maharaj there with these 2 kids. I said, hey, what brings you to the Empire State Building? He said, I'm hoping they'll jump. It gives you a flavor of Vipramukhya Maharaj. But they have a net, actually, because so many people jump. They actually have a net to catch you if you jump. So anyway, we flew, and so we had hotel reservations, I had car reservations, I had cash, I had my credit cards, and I had the whole thing nicely packed up in a little, you know, whatever you call it, a travel cachet or something, you know. And I had to make I was still the temple president, I had to make a call back to the temple, and before cell phone days. And, you know, there's a pay phone, and I had everything in my hand. I put a couple of things on the top, and I made the call. Then, we had to catch the bus to go over our rental car. And when I got to the rental car place, about 15 minutes later, you have to drive through the airport. Hare Krishna. You have to drive through the airport and everything. Hello, young man. I was wondering where you guys were. Time change for you. We're in our own tattva here at the temple. We go back after breakfast. Or before breakfast, I forget, whatever. But the point is, when I went to rent my car, all of a sudden I realized that I'd left my credit cards, my wallet, my tickets, everything on top of the phone in JFK. By the time I got back, it'd been on top of that thing for 45 minutes. And I thought, well, there's that, we're going to have to make a few changes in our plans here, And I was looking at the top, and, it was hopeless, right? And all of a sudden, this guy, a little sweeper guy, came up to me and said, hey, buddy, did you lose something? I said, yeah. And he pulled out from his cart, and he handed me the whole thing back. What are the odds of that happening? In New York City, JFK. Yeah, what are the odds? So things happen. There's when the Titanic was sinking, the unsinkable Titanic, when it was sinking, hit that iceberg, they didn't have enough lifeboats, the arrogance, the hubris of modern technology. So what they did, because you could go first class, different, but if you could go steerage, which means more or less you were down in the bellows of the ship, and you sort of fended for yourself, I don't know whether they served some kind of meal, but it was the cheapest you could go. So when the ship started to sink, and they realized they didn't have enough lifeboats, they just locked those in steerage. They just locked the doors. So they figure, well, maybe we got for the first class, Lady Astor or whatever, maybe they can make it, but the rest of them are going down with the ship. Now, there was a guy from Ireland, and because that's where the anchor chains are, and those big, huge chains, and they grease them so they don't, grab and bind. That's why they lower them down and lift them up. So he decided, he smeared himself with grease because he wanted to get in the venting system, and he squeezed out all the way from the lower, from the steerage, where all the baggage and he got it was all the way out, but even so, he would have frozen. The water was just whatever, a degree or two above. But because he was covered with the grease, it acted as insulation. And he was, alive for just a minute or two, and then somebody pulled him into a boat, and he survived. So he literally survived the sinking of the Titanic against all odds. Many years later, he retired to Ireland, and he was coming home from the pub. Is it Guinness? Is Ireland? Yeah. So he'd had a few pints and was stumbling home. And he passed out, he tripped, passed out drunk in a puddle. And the puddle was just enough to cover his nose and his mouth. So he could navigate the Arctic, the sinking of the Titanic, but couldn't get across that puddle. There's another guy, and he was one of the admirals with Nelson at Trafalgar. He had his flagship and another ship shot out from under him at the Battle of Trafalgar. Lived through the whole thing. Lived to a ripe old age and choked on something in a dark pub and fell into a bowl of clam chowder and drowned in his clam chowder. It was just enough to cover his nose and mouth. He was in a booth by himself. Nobody noticed. So he survived Trafalgar. 2 boats shot out from under him. Couldn't get across that clam chowder. Maybe it was potato chowder. I don't know what it was. But so I wanted to share a few examples of these kind of things. Right here in San Diego, when we had that earthquake. Remember that earthquake? Yeah. There's a guy it was up in, not Lemon Grove, but in that area. It was a 3-bedroom apartment building. It collapsed. The guy was on the 2nd floor, whatever it was, so he had a floor above him. The whole thing collapsed. He got out. Somehow or other, didn't crush him. There was a passage. He got out. He's in his pajamas, and he was looking at the collapsed building, saying, man, am I lucky. wham, was hit by a fire truck that killed him. Hit by the fire truck. He was standing in the street. It was night. He was looking at the building. The fire truck ran him right over. So what is it? Whoever Krishna wants to save, no one can kill. Who Krishna wants to kill, no one can save. And we're going to, well, we'll get a little further in. I have a few more of these because to drive home the point. Oh, there's many times, there's policemen that are shot at before they had a nice vest, and it would bounce off their badge sometimes. They'd have a dent in the badge. There was a, I don't know what his sermon was, but there was a priest who was, they shot, he was mugged outside, they shot him, and the bullet went into the Bible. Went about halfway through and stopped because of the thick paper. Paper, will stop that. So the devotees in Rome, there used to be, I don't know what it was, the 80s, there was the Red Guard or the Red Brigade or whatever they were called. They were anarchists, anti-fascists, and they were, I mean, all of Italy was, and Germany also, they had kidnapping and so many things. So the Bhagawan, who was the GBC, Sundarupa, Bibi Govinda may have also been there, maybe Indradumna Maharaj. So they were flying from Milan to Israel, because Bhagavan was the GBC for Israel, and they were on El Al, the Israeli Airlines. So while they're waiting for the plane, well, one of the devotees said, yeah, I got to get some batteries for my this and that. Another devotee said, oh, I got to make a phone call. Another devotee said, yeah, I'm going to get something to drink on the plane. I'm going to get some water or some juice. So there were maybe about 10 devotees, 10 or 12, all in the El Al, lounge. And individually, I got to go to the bathroom. They all individually left the lounge to go some little errand. What happened was the Red Brigade attacked the airport. Maybe it was Rome or Milan. I forget which one it was. Was it Rome? And it was a huge machine gun, massacred like 30 people. Each of the devotees who'd gone off on their own, saw the scene. Oh my gosh, not a single devotee was touched. They'd all, super soul within that, they'd all gone out of the scene, and the carnage happened, and they showed up afterwards. So the point we want to make, well, Prabhupada says this. Prabhupada tells a story, and it's from I think it's from the Vishnu Purana. I forget where it is. But and you've heard it before, but I'm going to tell it again. There was a Jaga in the heavenly planets. And all the devas were assembled there, swaha, and everyone throws the grains, not overhand, underhand, because you're offering with your finger shaped like deer. There's a way you do it. So swaha, and not all the grains always make it into the fire, right? So there was a little paki, as they say in Bengali. It was a little bird. Is it paki? Yeah, it is paki, isn't it? It's a little bird, little sparrow. So, the little sparrow there was getting some grains. You see it. In Mayapur, Vrindavan, when it's open, the little birds are there and they're getting a little something like that. So Yamaraj kept looking at the bird. And you can imagine you're a little bird and Yamaraj keeps looking at you. Make you a little nervous, wouldn't it? Think, well, what's this all about, So at some point in time, the little bird went to Garuda and said, I need your help. You have to help me. My big brother bird, please help me. So Garuda asked, what's the problem? He said, well, this Yamaraj keeps giving me the evil eye. I don't know. Well, what do you want me to do? Can you just put me on your back and fly me to Mount Sumeru? Just fly me to the top of Mount Meru. He won't know to look for me there. So Garuda, can fly at the speed of the mind or faster. He gets on the back, drops him off the mountain, comes back. By the time Garuda gets back, the jug is over. They're all lined up taking prasadam, just like we do. They're devotees and like that, certainly pious. So they're all lined up taking prasadam. And Garuda says, hey, I almost missed the kachoris. I had to go do this errand. How come you kept giving the evil eye to this little bird. Yamaraj said, "No, I wasn't giving the evil eye. I was just so surprised to see him here, because I have an appointment with him this afternoon on the top of Mount Sumeru. And I was wondering, how's he going to get there?" So you can't, what can you do, you know? I was in Prabhupada's room one time, darshan. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hi, Krishna. I'm so sorry. We can't figure out how to turn the other on. Thank you.
I thought it was kitchen related, seeing the apron. Oh, it's good. So it was a darshan in Detroit. I forget the year, probably 75, 76. And this man kept fidgeting. You know, usually, like a women, it's called Dharma Patni, and the wife is usually more inclined. And Prabhupada says in one purport that at any religious function, there'll be more women than men. It's just because they have soft hearts, and men are like, you know, as much as you can generalize. Of course, now everybody's messed up. So Radhanath Maharaj told me that he just read that. And the next day, he went to a function. And it was some out in the middle of nowhere, you know, when there was a pandal tent, you know. But he went. He said he'd go, so he went. And when he got there was about 75 people, and 74 of them were women. There was only one man. So having just read this purport, Radhanath Maharaj asked him, you know, it's all women, how come you're here? The guy said, my wife told me to come. So even he was only there because his wife had dragged him, you know. So similarly, this guy was there for the darshan. But obviously, he wanted to be home watching cricket or Bollywood or what's up on MSNBC or what. Of course, I don't think it was around at that time. But his wife had made him come, so all right, then he came. But he kept looking at his watch. He kept fidgeting and looking. And Prabhupada finally, after the 5th or 6th time, Prabhupada said, what is the issue? The man said, I have a very important appointment. I have a very important appointment, and I do not want to miss it. To which Prabhupada responded, you only have one appointment, and you will not miss it. Anyone know what that? Yeah, you can't say, no, Yamaraj, no, Thursday doesn't work. No, Friday doesn't work. How about never? Does never work for you? You know, forget it, you know. Yeah, when you go and you're going. So the point I'm trying to make is that Krishna describes in the Gita, it's the 18th chapter of the Gita. I think it's text 12 and then text 14. And it describes the different factors of action. There's the, what I'm trying to remember what they are. There's the, well, there's the action, place of the action, which is the body. It's described as the body, the kshetra. Then there's the performer. There's the kshetragya. There's the this living entity. There's the various senses. There's the many different kinds of endeavors. But what is the fifth and ultimate factor other than Dravida? The Supersoul, Krishna. He's the ultimate sanctioning agent. I'm quoting, now this is the text, I think this is 14. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. I'm going to read it again. Because we're thinking, what is it? Prakriti kriyamanani gunakarmati sarvasya. We think that we're the doer and the cause, but it's actually just going on by the modes of nature. We are not... Just like I was thinking about when you're a pitcher in baseball, I guess it would work in cricket also, whatever it is. I mean, they have all kinds of, they have a screwball, a spitball, slow ball, fastball, curveball, right? Knuckleball. Huh? Knuckleball, slow ball, they got all kinds of things, right? But once that ball leaves the hand of the pitcher, whether the guy strikes out or hits a home run, you have no control. You're standing there on the mound hoping for the best, you know. The wind can blow it up. The guy can have his eye on it and somebody blows his nose and he's just, who knows what's going to happen. So the fact of the matter is, now it doesn't mean that we don't use our intelligence, we don't plan, it doesn't, the devotees ask, and it's on a tape, and Harivalas asks, he says, Prabhupada, if the devotees are fearless, why do we wear seatbelts? Krishna's controlling everything. Why do we, is it a sign of we don't have faith? You don't have enough confidence, therefore you got to have plan B, right? I was thinking of another joke, but we don't have time. Prabhupada said devotees are fearless. Prabhupada said, but we're not fools. You put a seatbelt on, you don't walk out in traffic and say, oh, Nrsingadev, So, sure, we use our intelligence, we do our plans, but ultimately we understand that everything is under Krishna's control. Now, let's think of some examples. Chanakya Pandit, and Prabhupada quotes it, that Krishna's actually the provider. You can make your plans, the best laid plans of mice and men do oft go astray. I think that's Shakespeare, but who knows? Best laid plans of mice and men do oft go astray. So we may make all of our plans, and we're trying to avoid so many things. Well, let's say this. Prabhupada gives the example, quoting Chanakya Pandit. The woman's breast does not have milk in it until the child is born. As soon as the child comes out, the breast fills up with milk. So Krishna's providing for everyone. Right time, right place, right circumstance. Krishna is actually the provider. So, we'll run out of time here. And I was thinking of, because Prabhupada talks about, even you have the best protection, something can go screwy. We gave examples of that. And even if you're unprotected, who can think as a Vaishnava who had no protection and yet was protected? I've got a couple ideas in my mind. Here's Prahlad. Narada Muni is a small boy. He was all alone in the forest. Who can we think of another? Parikshit in the womb. I was thinking of Parikshit. But wait. So far we've got Prahlad. We've got Narada. We've got Parikshit. Draupadi. I hadn't thought of Draupadi. I was thinking of Dhruva. Ambarish. If you actually think about it, there's so many examples of devotees who ultimately, what could they do? But they had to depend on Krishna. So we make our own endeavors, we use our intelligence, but in the ultimate issue, we recognize, because here's the thing. Sadhaputta tells a joke, which I like, and I'm going to repeat it. Oh, here's another one just for fun. I was going on Sankirtan many years ago in Detroit. Actually, it was in, Flint, Michigan. And I was lying down in the back seat of the car. A devotee was driving, another devotee, and the back seat was, and I was going to lie down and take a nap. But I thought, I'm going to be there in 15 minutes. I'll read something. And I was reading Krishna book. And I was reading in Krishna book where it talks about the cowherd boys going into Aghasura's mouth. And they analyzed, maybe it's a cave, stalactites, stalagmites. Yep, but there's a fishy smell. Maybe it's a giant. They actually analyzed it properly, that it must be a giant snake lying on the road to eat us. But what did they conclude? Krishna will protect us. So they marched right in. And Prabhupada describes that actually one becomes fearless when they understand. Now, Krishna protects the devotee. The devotee is not the body. Krishna protects our advancement in spiritual life, our process, our path of going back to Godhead. That Krishna is protecting. But it doesn't mean that, otherwise why devotees die of so many different things? Devotees are killed in car accidents. But the point, I was lying in the back of this car, and I was thinking, if I actually had full confidence in that, I wouldn't be in anxiety about anything. I would actually be fearless. I wouldn't be in anxiety about, what's going to happen here. What about this? Prabhupada describes fearing, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And sometimes he describes defending as fearing. And sometimes he describes that fearing is anxiety. People are always in anxiety. What's going to happen to the stock market? Is my wife going to dump me? Is it, that loose tooth? Was that going to, whatever it is, people are in anxiety. And Prabhupada said, actually, of all the four factors, this existential angst that is woven into the fabric of experience. We're always in anxiety about something. We're hankering for something. We're going to lose something. But I was thinking, if I really knew that Krishna's the ultimate controller and going to take care of everything, whatever I deserve, whatever is good for my spiritual life, that's going to happen. I can't change it. I can't avoid it. And behind it is the therapeutic, beneficial hand of the Lord. If I had full faith in that, I'd be free from anxiety. I'd just get about my real business. I wouldn't have, like when I was a kid, and this has an ending how the story ends, I remember reading a Superman comic book, or some kind of comic book. Because they say that you only use 10% of your brain. I don't know if that's a fact, but they used to say that. And it was about someone who'd learned how to use their entire brain. And they had some, X-ray vision or whatever. I was thinking about it. If I actually, instead of thinking about my material desires, my material anxieties, my material calculations, what if all of that wasn't on my radar? What would I be doing if I was using the full percentage of my brain for devotional service? I'd be in ecstasy. I'd be doing powerful service for Krishna. I wouldn't be having my energy drained by all my petty issues. So I was thinking about all this in the car. And I don't know if you've ever been where there's snow or it snows in the evening. And then if it's a light snow, then it melts. And then later in the late afternoon or evening, it becomes a sheet of ice. And it's very dangerous to drive on. Huh? Yeah, whatever you want to call it. It's like a sheet of glass. And the devotee driving had missed the exit. He was driving along, and so he forgot it, and he turned the wheel quickly to catch the exit, And literally, we were going 70 miles an hour. I was lying down. And I remember seeing this lamppost go by once, went twice. I said, whoa. And we literally, at 75 miles an hour, spun the car 4 times through traffic. Trucks, cars. I remember thinking, well, this is it. Okay, Krishna. I remember thinking what I actually thought was, I said, just kill me. Don't cripple me. Please, please. If you just get it over with. Make it fast. Make it, thorough. That shows you my level of realization. That's what I was thinking. And the car spun around 4 times through all the traffic, and we landed on the side of the road, on the shoulder, untouched, facing in the right direction. Wow. Because I was thinking, if I really believed it, and I think Krishna just spun the car and said, oh, yeah, well, try that on for size. Wow. So, that was an extreme example. But like I was saying, I'm thinking about the time. We have so many issues and so many concerns and so many prayers. That's what I was thinking about. We're offering prayers. Om Jaya Jagadish Hari, give me a new car and a house by the sea. We have so many plans. People go up to the top of mountains. Even they go to the top of the mountains. Sometimes, I think it's Buddhists, Tibetan Buddhists. They write their prayer on the top of a mountain on paper and then throw it into the fire because the ash, I don't know what. 14,000 feet's not enough. You got to get the extra 100 feet to the ashes. That way your prayer will get through. And if God can hear you, if He can hear our prayer, then He already knows what we're going to pray. He's already in our heart. It's like, if I don't go to the right sacred spot at the right time of the right yantra, then God won't hear it. But He's going to hear it if I'm in the right spot. What is the sound of a tree falling if no one's there to hear it? So is God going to hear my prayer if I've got this angle or that angle? So rather than, we should recognize that there's karma, there's our past activities, that Krishna puts the devotees under the Daiva Prakriti, the divine energy. And that doesn't mean that Krishna makes it easy for the devotees. If we're serious, sometimes Krishna lays it on. So if we accept, if I'm trying to use a hammer as a screwdriver, is that going to work out? I mean, I imagine you could take it with it, what is it, the claw they call it? You know, and you could try to, I mean, I don't know, you could try something, but. And if somebody says, you know, that's not what it's meant for. Try it, try, you got to put a nail in, try that and try a screwdriver. Oh, hey, that works pretty well, you know? So if we look at it, we're spending our whole life trying to jerry-rig this material world, when really, we're not the ultimate controller. We're just one of 5 factors. And we're not even the ultimate factor. The ultimate factor is Krishna. And there's our karma and destiny. You cannot dodge it. So if we know all of that, then we think, all right, then, let me get about my real business. Let me become Krishna conscious. Let me please Krishna. That will actually solve everything. Prabhupada's classic example, if you have $1 million, does it take care of your 10-cent problems? If you become Krishna's devotee, Prabhupada says you can use a little hammer. You're trying to drive in a stake, and you're out there with a little ball hammer. Ping, 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 ping. You know, Prabhupada says you get a sledgehammer, one whack, whoosh, goes right in. So that one whack, that one thing, is devotional service. And I was thinking of the Damodarastakam, that you just surrender to Krishna. Krishna's unconquerable. He's uncontrollable. He's achyuta, achinta, so many things. Ajita. But you surrender to him, get about your real business, and Krishna gives full protection. So we can end there. That was something. Now I want to say something about Radhakund. And there's many things you could say. But, and I have some pictures, but Radhakund was rediscovered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And it had come to the point that it was just 2 puddles, 2 ponds, small ponds. I mean, imagine, but the picture is there, but maybe 10 feet across, something like that. That was all that was left in a paddy field, rice field. And the local villagers were very surprised to see Mahaprabhu bathing in these 2 puddles in great ecstasy and marking his body with Radhakund, you know, clay, like that. So later on, where to start? Raghunath Das Goswami, after Mahaprabhu left, he was crushed, heartbroken. I mean, you read in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leaves, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami pass out, he leaves some village, everyone's stunned, can't. So you can imagine Raghunath Das living in Jagannath Puri with Mahaprabhu. So he couldn't tolerate it, he couldn't stand it. So he decided that he was going to go to Vrindavan and jump off Govardhan Hill and commit suicide, because he just couldn't bear the separation. But he thought, being a saintly Vaishnava, I should at least offer my respects to my seniors, Sanatan and Rupa Goswami. So before he jumped off Govardhan Hill, he stopped to offer respects to Sanatan and Rupa. They were also crushed, but they said, we were given mission by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Was it Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says to Sanatan Goswami when he was going to commit suicide because he was covered with the sores? And Mahaprabhu said, that's not your body. You surrendered to me. That body belongs to me. If you destroy someone else's property, is that very good? Is that dharmic? So you have to stay alive and do my... And of course, there's a whole story. He's embraced by Mahaprabhu and fully recovers. But they convinced Raghunath Das that, no, you have service to do for Mahaprabhu. So however you're feeling, you have to... And you just take shelter of Radhakund, and all things will come to you. So I wanted to pass out this first picture. This is Raghunath Das Goswami taking shelter. Let's give it to the ladies this time, and then to the men. And he was so absorbed in his meditation, and it's hot, sometimes very hot. So he was just sitting absorbed in meditation. He was going to get horribly sunburned. Srimati Radharani used to come and hold her sari over him for shade. And in those days, there were tigers. Even in 1930s, there were tigers all over Bengal. So many different places there were tigers. Jaipur was full of tigers, Rajasthan. So here's a little tasty morsel. This sadhu sitting there, nice snack item for a tiger. So Krishna would take his stick for herding cows and chase away the tigers. So Sanatana Goswami, that's what's in the picture. Sanatana Goswami came to check on Raghunath Das, and he saw that Krishna's chasing away the tigers with his stick for herding cows. Radharani's there with his sari. Did he think, oh, you've obtained the highest state? How did Sanatana Goswami? Did he? Because people tell me, I went to Jagannath Puri and Lord Jagannath's trying to snatch my sari. I mean, come on, you know. I mean, I hear the flutes, and whenever I go to Radhakund, spare me. It's somebody playing a Bollywood movie on their radio. So it's not so cheap thing, you know. So how did Sanatana Goswami respond when he saw Dravida Prabhu? Yeah.
He chastised him because you're taking...
Chastised him? Why?
Because you're taking service from Radha, you're taking service from Krishna. We're supposed to be serving them. And
yeah, he said, you're chanting Hare Krishna. Oh, let us serve you. And then here you are demanding service for them. So he said, just build yourself a kutir so they don't have to bother with you. So you can get out of the sun and the tigers won't eat you. Chastised him, which gives you an indication of what real devotional mood is. So he built a little bhajan kutir. Or the villagers built for him. I don't know exactly how it happened. He had a little bhajan kutir. And he would meditate. So many nice stories. But he was thinking one day, no one comes here. You know, only a few self-realized souls understand that this is the original Shamakund, Radhakund. If only there was a parikram path. If there was a little path, you know, and a nice kund, if it made it, you know, it would be very nice. People would come and they'd get the blessings of Radhakund. But how did he respond? He thought, again I'm asking Krishna for something. And he knew, he's remembering the Sanatana Goswami chast, so he became very upset. And he thought, even in my mind I'm thinking, Krishna do this, Krishna do that. Now, there was a wealthy merchant. It mentions where he was from, but I can't remember right now. I'm thinking Maharashtra, but I could be wrong. But he was at Badrinath up in the Himalayas, and he had saved wealth. He wanted to give to Badrinarayan Rishi, to, was it Vishal? Vishal? What is the name of the deity there? Narayan deity. Anyway, he was going to give the money. And the deity, up in the Himalayas, and the deity said, I don't want it. You take it and you give it to Raghunath Das so he can build a kund. So the man walked all the way from Badrinath to Vrindavan, Govardhan, Uttar Pradesh. I think it's almost 1,000 miles. Walked. He got there and said, here, you know, the Narayan Rishi, Badrinarayan's deity said, please take this. He said, no. Said, I can't take it. I'm not going to take it. I asked for Krishna something, not just because he fulfilled it. I should become a merchant and take it. No, I'm not going to take it. So the man turned around. I heard Prabhupada tell a story. Walked all the way back to Badrinath and said, he doesn't want it. Badri Vishal said, I don't want to see you again until he takes it. So he turned around, walked all the way back, said, please, give me a break. Please take it. So he took it. And Jiva Goswami purchased the land. The deeds are there. Well, they're in the real world. I mean, they're in the practical world. They had to buy the land. They had to hire a contractor. The merchant who gave the money became the contractor. Hired all the workmen and arranged for everything. Jiva Goswami arranged for the deeds and had everything kept safely at the Radha Damodar temple. And that's how what we see now is Radhakund. That's how it was constructed. Now the thing is, here's another. We're almost done. Here's a bird's eye view of Radhakund and Shamakund. Now there's a whole, somebody can tell another how the original Radhakund, after killing the Risasura demon, you can tell all that. But we just had time for this short. So you'll notice how Radhakund is a nice square. But you'll notice that Shamakund is irregular. You know why? Because the night before they were beginning to start the construction, the Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas, appeared to Raghunath Das, and they say, please, please, we've taken the form of trees around the edge of Shamakund, around the edge of Shamakund, so we can see all the Lord's pastimes with Radha and Krishna and the gopis. So don't cut us down. So the Shamakund is built around those trees. Tamal Krishnamaj told me that when he went to Radhakund with Prabhupada, there's that, I think in the 72, I don't know what, but maybe earlier, Prabhupada took, did that. You see those pictures of Prabhupada taking the devotees on a tour of, Radhakund, Shamakund, Nandagram, Barsana, so many things. So Tamal said, it's a long day, it's hot, they're out, and so he was leaning on a tree in the shade, put his hand like, Prabhupada said, don't touch that tree. Prabhupada said, he's a Maharashtrian Brahmin taking birth just to see the pastimes. Oh, no, just to shade the Vaishnavas. So you can take the shade, but don't lean on it. He's a saintly Vaishnava. So these are holy tirthas. These things are going on. Now the last two, this is from 1930, what Radhakund used to look like. I mean, now you go there and it's, got all kinds of, if you have mundane vision, it's full of pandas harassing you for money, mercilessly harassing you for money. It's one of the worst places, that in Barsana. And it's got all kinds of houses and radios and stuff going on. I mean, it's still completely sublime. But this gives you a sample. This is actually 1972 from Jamuna's book. That's how Radhakund used to look. And this is how Radhakund is pure liquid prema. This is how it looks nowadays for those who have the eyes to see. So let's give this to the men. So there we go. That's all glories to Radhakund, Shamakund. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.